This is my solution to a home theatre PC using the Cooler Master 120 Elite. Obviously with home theatre PCs you want them small but you also want them quiet, which is a bit of a contradiction because there's obviously less airflow and more build-up of heat inside. So there are different solutions, but this is my particular solution. So on the front, if I take that off, I've put a Noctua NFP12, which actually at the moment I'm not using because I don't need it at the moment. I've got a Blu-ray drive which I got very cheap, about £20, but after I bought it I found out why. It's because it comes with Power DVD 10, which Power DVD 12 supports Windows 8 and Power DVD 10 doesn't, and obviously I ended up with Windows 8. So at the moment I can't play Blu-rays on it unless I update to Power DVD 12, which I'm not going to do as it costs way too much money at the moment. Inside, the real issue with this case has been the area for the power for the CPU fan underneath the PSU. It's actually really small and tight in there. Obviously it's a mini ITX motherboard, but I finally went with the Noctua NH L9i, which is ideal for this. Quite a few other power CPU fans were a lot larger, either wider or higher. Obviously the standard Intel fan did fit under there, but it was a lot higher and it also was a lot noisier than Noctua. I went with 8 gigs of Corsair Vengeance RAM. I went with the low profile because I bought these before I bought my CPU fan, and some of the other fans, they were obviously going over it and I needed something low. But in the end actually I could have got something with a taller heat spreader. The hard drive cage at the front I modified slightly. Normally you can have 3 shelves, so you have 6 2.5 inch hard drives, or you can have 3 3.5 inch and 3 2.5 inch. But I cut out the middle shelves so that I could get more air moving from the front of the case through to the back, so I've got cold air going in onto the processor. And I've just put in a 320 gig 2.5 inch drive at the bottom, and at the top I've got a 120 gig SSD SATA 3. Which obviously my operating system and everything's on there, so they don't block the airflow going to the back. I have seen people take out the cage altogether and put in a water cooling solution, but it was more money and also I'd lose the hard drive cages, and I thought this was probably a cheaper and equally quiet solution. The power supply is a bequiet. It's 430 watts. I'm really happy with this. It's partially modular, so there's less cables in there. Obviously there's less room, and also more cables would block the airflow, so that's really good. I like the colour and it is excellent. It's so quiet. The fans, I put the Noctua badge on my power supply. I thought that it kind of keeps the colour continuity, because a lot of people complain about the colours of Noctua, but I think they're great. They're really retro. And just like by having 3, it's got a good aesthetics as well. The motherboard is MSi. It's not a Z77. It's the one just slightly below it, which I went for budget, which is the B75. But it does support USB 3, which the case has. It supports the PCI Express 3 and also SATA 3. So I was pretty happy with it. It did everything I needed. I'll show you. Oh, the processor. Yeah, I should tell you about that as well. That took a while to decide, but I went with this Core i5, the 3470S, and it was the S that makes a difference because the standard Ivy Bridge processors all are rated at about, well, at least on the i5, are about 95 watts. Whereas the S series are 65 watts. So obviously it runs maybe a little slower, but it's a lot cooler as well, so that the temperatures really don't get high in here. And the onboard graphics on the processor of the Intel HD 3500, not quite as good as the 4000 series, but actually I can run Skyrim on it, no problem. Obviously not in high settings, so it's just good enough. Obviously there is room for a full-length graphics card in this case, and I will be getting one eventually, probably around the time Thief 4 comes out. But I want to go for something passive, and I've noticed that when I have turned on the front case fan, a lot of cold air is pushed along the side inside the case. So if I have a passively cooled graphics card with the fins running horizontally, I'll be getting good airflow along there and out the back. I'm really happy with the airflow when the front isn't on. This is one of the biggest problems, I think, with the design, is there's not really enough airflow coming through the front of the front plate. So actually, when I am gaming for quite a few hours, I might take the front off and put the fan on. It still stays very quiet, but it means that there's no build-up of heat in there. This case came with fans, but they were so noisy, it really wasn't worth it as a home theatre PC. It came with a fan on the side here, but I took it out. I actually left, I don't know if you can see it, I left the little frame that the fan was inside, because it kind of supports the power supply, and it means that the power supply isn't putting a lot of pressure on the back plate there. One of the good things about this case is that you can put a full-size power supply. Even though it's ITX form factor, you can put a full ATX power supply in the back there. I'll show you just it turning on. Obviously I've got Windows 8 and a solid-state drive, so the startup is pretty quick once it gets past the first screen. That's it. So it's about sort of 5-6 seconds from pressing the button to actually getting to the logon screen. So, oh, and finally, how quiet is it? Obviously this doesn't pick up sound too well, but it's very quiet.